It's just go through our preamble. It's only executive lead members present in the room that are taking the decisions at this meeting. Others in attendance are here to provide advice. There are no planned fire drills today. In the event of a fire alarm, please follow the fire exit signs and congregate in the car park. If anybody present might need assistance in exiting the building, then please let one of the Democratic Services team know. The agenda and papers have been published in the council website in advance of the meeting, and while we recognise the importance of striking the balance between the lawful expression of views, unacceptable behaviours or actions that cause disruption will lead to meetings being adjourned. The council will be making a recording of the meeting, and this will be published in due course. Today's meeting is being run using a hybrid format, so the lead members and key officers are physically present in the electoral room. There are other elected members and officers who may physically or remotely join the meeting to speak on specific agenda items, and we are being broadcast, and therefore other members of the public and partners might be, or certainly are, observing the meeting remotely. If you are joining us online, please can you use the chat function only for the purposes of the meeting, and only by exception, please. If you need to speak, please use the hands up function. If that isn't working for any reason, please do use the chat function, and we'll try and pick you up and say your name before speaking, and microphones and cameras otherwise turned off is really helpful. Thank you very much. I was going to mention that it's Councillor Oakes' last meeting on the executive, but he's actually not here yet. I'm not seeing him online or in the room, so I will mention that. I'm also just noticing we haven't got Councillor Rigby yet in the room either. I've got apologies from Councillor Federica Smith-Roberts, who's poorly today, and from Councillor Theo Butt-Phillip, who is at a funeral, which takes us down to uncomfortably close to quorum. So please could members of the executive give advance warning if they need to leave the room, because we would then suddenly be in quorum and not able to. Hopefully Graham and Mike will be with us very shortly. So agenda item 2, we have minutes to consider from the 1st of April. Has everybody had a chance to look through those? And we're all happy. Councillor Lyshon is happy to propose. Councillor Wakefield happy to second. If everybody's nodding, yeah, that's fine. Let's sign away. Let's sign away. And past your left. Past your left. Are there any declarations of interests that members wish to make about the items that are here on the agenda? I'm not seeing any. Which moves us on to public question time. We had 2 requests for public speakers, one from Anthony Betty and one from Carol Edmonds. Carol Edmonds asked us virtually the same question last time, and I can very briefly answer rather than it being a public question, and would very much welcome her question next time when we will actually be able to answer it. So I'll just politely thank her for her interest and politely ask her to ask it next time. We do, just to update, this is on the roadworks in Bridgewater and the review of those. We have the report from Stantec. Our highways team are assessing it. It will then be shared with the relevant lead members, and then with the divisional members, and then with other stakeholders. And we do have to go through that process quite carefully in accordance with our constitution. So I've briefly answered the question that Carol was wanting to ask there, and we look forward to her asking that at our next meeting. And our second one is from Mr. Anthony Betty. He's been struggling to join online. That's disappointing. No, we're not seeing him online. So, okay, but we're not seeing him online.
Do you want to delay it, see if he joins us? Do you want us to?
As it's the only question, could I ask an officer to read it out, please? Oh, there's maybe somebody in the lobby. Okay, hello caller. We got a mobile number there. If you're Anthony Betty.
Hi, Bill. Yes, it's me.
Hello, Anthony. How are you?
Good, thank you. I was having trouble getting on. There's a network issue or something.
There we are. We're hearing you loud and clear. We were just about to get an officer to read out your question, and here you are. So welcome.
Lovely.
Do you want to? You've got 3 minutes. As it's you, I might give you a bit longer. You never know. I might be in a generous mood.
Well, I'll be easy and just read the question as written.
Okay.
We know this council has become heavily reliant on external consultants to guide its decisions in much the same way a sat-nav dictates every turn. However, us residents are not being given a clear picture of the scale of this reliance. Therefore, can the exec member set out the council's total expenditure on external consultants and advisory support since April 2023, including any committed or contracted costs, whether already incurred or still to be paid, and provide a breakdown by directorate or service area?
Thanks very much, Anthony, for your question, and would normally be taken by Councillor Theobert Philip, but as he's at a funeral, I'm gonna sub in for him. So the council does not use. I will start that again. The council does use external consultants and advisors, but this is done in a targeted and a proportionate way. Their role is not to replace decision making, but to support improvements, manage risk, and deliver savings where specialist or time-limited expertise is needed. All such expenditure is approved through the council's normal governance and decision-making processes. In line with the Local Government Transparency Code, all spending over £500 is published quarterly on the council's website and is publicly available. To provide further clarity, the council will set out the total spend on external consultants and advisors since April 2023, based on an analysis of suppliers, but not individual invoices. This will include costs already incurred, as well as any committed or contracted costs yet to be paid, with a breakdown by directorate or service area. We will provide that table in a written response so that you have that information set out rather than me reading out a table, which would be very boring. However, the headline figure, the total is £18.9 million over the last 3 years, which represents 6.9 million per year, and that's under 1% of total council spend for context. The council remains committed to transparency and to ensuring that any use of external support represents clear value for money for Somerset residents. The detail that has been requested in the question will be provided in the written response. And just to note that the figure for 25-26 is significantly lower than the previous 2 years, as you'd expect. For the need for such support is greater during local government reorganisation and during a workforce restructure. Thank you very much for your question, Anthony, and take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we move on to questions from councillors to the executive. And our first question is from Councillor Tom Deakin. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. Can I ask my 2 questions individually, if that's okay, please, if you don't mind?
Go for it.
Thank you very much. So my first question regards the safety of the road near to Nerrells Primary School in my division. There was a incident over the Easter holidays whereby a vehicle coming fast down the hill crashed into nearby fencing by the school, which the school needed to repair over the Easter holidays. And following this and other similar incidents that have happened in the area over recent years, the head teacher and PTA have been in touch with me with understandable concerns regarding pupil safety in the area. We have been able to get some speed indicator devices in the area funded by the local town council, which is great, but it's clear that more is needed in this area and along this exposed bit of pavement where we see daily children crossing the road in unsafe locations. So can I please ask that whether the executive will commit to progressing additional measures as a priority and set out what action will be taken in this area?
I believe Councillor Richard Wilkins is responding. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Tom, for the question. And first of all, I very much welcome the installation of speed indicator devices that have been funded by Taunton Town Council as a positive step towards encouraging safer driver behaviour along this stretch of road. Obviously, we enjoy working with the Town Council in providing these devices. We have looked at whether it's possible to implement additional safety barriers along the footway, but we do not think that this is possible, as the barriers would need to be set back from the road, and this would reduce the width of the cycle lane, which is already at the minimum width allowed by safety standards. However, we're very happy to discuss with the school what alternative solutions may be possible.
Thank you. And your second question, please, Councillor Deacon.
Thank you. My second question relates to unauthorised encampments on Stony Furlong green space. So this location has faced repeated unauthorised encampments over recent years, and residents were really pleased that this council installed additional bollards last summer and were incredibly appreciative of that. There is, however, still a feeling locally that there is more that needs to be done in certain areas on the site to just discourage further unauthorised encampments. So I'd therefore like to ask whether the executive will commit to bringing forward some further targeted measures, things like maybe boulders or earth mounds, just to better protect the site and make sure that residents are reassured that future encampments will be deterred.
Thank you. I note that Councillor Federica Smith-Roberts was due to respond, and sadly she's not here. You will receive a written response, but I'll read out the brief oral response to you. Deterrent measures were put into place in Stony Furlong last summer in the form of bollards, and since their installation there have been no further encampments. This demonstrates that they are working, and therefore further measures are not likely to be considered at this time, but we will keep the matter under review, and should we need a different response, then we will put something else into practice. Okay, thank you very much for your questions, Councillor Deacon, and move over to Councillor Rodriguez. Good morning, Diogo.
Morning, Leader. Thank you all. My question, we are all very aware of the dreadful backlog of initial EHC needs assessments in Somerset. So very much worse than in neighbouring areas, it does not need me to labour the point. My question now concerns the EHCP reviews that are required to support students' phase transfers. So that's when they move from primary to secondary or on to post-16 education, so that their placements for the following September can be settled and appropriate and timely transition arrangements can be put in place beforehand. So please, can the lead member confirm the total number of EHCP transfer reviews due for completion by the statutory deadlines in each of the following academic years, 23-24, 24-25 and 25-26? Of those, how many were completed on time for each year? Of those not completed on time, what is the maximum and the median number of weeks that they were over time when they were completed? And of those not completed on time, how many remain outstanding, if any, for each year? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rodriguez, and we'll pass on to Councillor Heather Shearer to respond. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm just organising my glasses here. Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you for bringing up such an important question. I do appreciate that. I have got a 2-page detailed answer for you, which, if you'll forgive me, I would rely on that coming to you in writing. But what I thought would be helpful for today, because we're pressed for time usually, I'll give a summary of some of the trends, if you like, and then you'll have that detail to follow with the actual numbers and the means and the medians and so on. So I'll summarise the key points. So in terms of question 2A, we have seen an increase in the total number of EHCP transfer reviews for year 11 and for post 16 in each of the 3 years that you've mentioned. So they've gone up incrementally. For question 2B, our timeliness in completion of these phase transfers was constant, thereabouts, in 23-24 and 24-25, but has decreased in 25-26. Question 2C, the data is written in the written answer shows where we are completing the transfers, where we are doing so, we are doing them more quickly. And I think the numbers will justify that when you see them. And question 2D, the number of outstanding phase transfers, again, was constant in 23-24 and 24-25, but it increased in 25-26. The most important thing, and I'm glad I've got the question because I can explain the things that we're doing. It's really important that we address this increasing demand and the Council's capacity to meet demand and statutory compliance in 2026. So a number of urgent measures have or are being taken to address this situation to ensure that all phase transfers are completed by the end of the summer term. They include urgent securing of agency contracts to temporarily increase capacity, multi-agency involvement from all teams to support place discussions with schools, redeployed management and frontline capacity to focus on phase transfer reviews, and a business case for the reorganisation of statutory SEND services and additional resources to increase management oversight and frontline capacity. I think it's also worth noting the importance of other work that's already underway, which is related and linked to phase transfers. This includes, I'm not to preclude my microphone here, establishment of SEND units on mainstream school sites, expansion of special schools, and the implementation of our Mainstream Plus programme. SEND reform plans to increase the mainstream capacity to meet the needs of children and young people with SEND, and also a pay review for EdPsychs, educational psychologists, to fill the gaps and increase involvement in phase transition activity. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Shearer. And move on to Councillor Mark Healy. Mark, you have a particularly long question. It's like a whole side of A4.
Oh yes,
I'm
totally, Chairman. I like to take a lot of time up.
Impressed.
Thank you.
Come ahead, Mark.
Okay, so I wish to ask the following questions of the executive. I've brought this particular matter up on several occasions with regard to the ongoing complaints I've received over a long period of time against the way this council outwardly appears to the public. I do not take pleasure in bringing this matter forward. There appears to be a lack of response and urgency from the establishment. People are trying to contact the council by phone and email, allegedly to no avail, leaving them frustrated and sometimes angry. It saddens me that I'm getting more phone calls from the public regarding this matter. Importantly, I've received an email from one couple that has asked me to read out the following. They've given me their permission. It's from Rachel and Andrew Hancock with their personal tale of woe regarding dealing with the council to date. And I quote, "Morning, Mark. We're writing in total despair over concerns with Somerset Council and the lack of communication. Having moved to the village of Puriton in January 2026 and notifying the council of our move, we were informed that it would take at least 15 weeks to update our address for council tax. We were told to continue to pay our council tax under our previous address, and it would be then rectified. We feel this is an unacceptable time frame, especially when you have to provide proof of your address to other companies and you can buy a house quicker. We also paid fees for a planning application on March 6, 2026. Having understood validation normally takes between 3 and 5 working days from the internet in brackets, our architect emailed the council on the 31st of March 2026 as he had not had validation confirmed. We were then led to believe from the council that it would reply to emails within 10 working days. Again, no reply was received. A phone call was then made to the council call centre to be told they were running behind, and they advised to email again, then asked if the 10-day reply would start again. They were told yes, if we didn't like to log a complaint. If we want to log a complaint, if you're unable to phone and speak to the department and they are not replying to emails either, what options have we left? Kind regards. As you will agree, this ongoing comedy of events brings us council into disrepute and a situation I hate to say, a lack of public confidence. What is this council going to do to eradicate this ongoing problem? Which brings me to my next question regarding planning. Again, I've brought this matter up on several occasions, referring to the plight of land agents and developers who again say, and I quote, "We're going bankrupt because of the amount of time it is taking and the lack of movement, of which appears to be urgency from the planning department. A land agent does not get paid until they secure planning permission, which in some circumstances is taking out to 2 years, and developers are then being held up because of the situation. They want to build properties for the people of Somerset and, importantly, homes in Somerset. Would you update members as to the current situation with regard to reducing the backlog of outstanding applications, and what is proposed by this authority to make a public statement to all those affected?" Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Healy. And can I ask Liz Lyshon to answer the first part of the question, and then we'll move on to Councillor Mike Rigby. Councillor Lyshon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Healy, Mark, for your question. On the revenues and benefits service, which includes council tax, the service has gone through major change, including the merge of 4 separate legacy systems into one, and a recent full restructure of the team. That was later than the whole council restructure due to the move to one system. And that was predicated on the ending of the Capita contract for the area we knew as Mendip, now East. We have brought in additional resource to help reduce the backlog, and we do acknowledge the backlog, and I apologise for delays. However, all members are able to contact me as lead member for Revs and Bens if they have concerns raised by residents in their division, and I will do everything I can to bring that forward, any case forward, with the head of Revs and Bens. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Liz. And go on to Councillor Mike Rigby. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Chair. Apologies for my lateness. And thank you for your question, Mark. Good to see you. Whilst there is a backlog of planning validation cases that the team are working their way through, the application in question has been through the process and confirmed as invalid on the 15th of April. A letter sent out to the applicant's agent requesting further information. To date, that information is still outstanding. No evidence can be found to suggest that the council is the cause of any delay in this case. It's worth just adding as well that at the beginning of the prioritising decisions period last summer, 85% of all of the applications that this council received were invalid. So there's a massive issue with regard to the quality of applications that are landing on the desks of our planning officers. Then many of them, 85% at that point, I think it's improved a little since then, but 85% as of last summer were not valid at the first time of asking. We've raised this with applicants and agents, and I think it's had some benefit, but there's still a long way to go in terms of the number of applications that arrive on our desks without all of the necessary information for us to make a determination. Somerset Council recognises the very real impact that planning delays can have on land agents, developers, and the delivery of homes and economic activity across the county. Members are regularly updated through reports to the Planning Stability Board, which monitors planning performance against national government indicators and local recovery targets. Those reports confirm that the planning service continues to operate under pressure following unitarisation, staffing shortages affecting the sector nationally, and a significant inherited backlog. However, they also demonstrate that performance is now stabilising and improving. The most recent information considered by the Planning Stability Board shows that the overall backlog of undetermined applications has reduced by 50% from its post-unitary peak. So that's 2,400 down to 1,100. The number of applications over 12 months old has fallen significantly, with the majority of remaining cases now actively managed through a prioritised triage process. Householder and other non-major applications are increasingly being determined within the 8-week statutory period, with performance trending upward quarter on quarter. Major applications continue to present the greatest challenge, but determination rates are improving as capacity is being targeted at housing enabling schemes. Validation performance has improved markedly, with most applications now validated within the Council's published targets. Appeal outcomes remain strong, with the Council successfully defending the majority of decisions, indicating that improvements in speed are not being achieved at the expense of quality. A recovery programme overseen by the Planning Stability Board remains in place and includes targeted action on the oldest cases, prioritisation of housing delivery schemes, additional interim capacity where appropriate, streamlined processes and strengthened performance management. The Council recognises the importance of transparency. Planning performance is reported publicly through committee papers and corporate performance monitoring, and officers continue to provide clear and realistic messaging to applicants, agents and developers regarding timescales and expectations. A regular developer and agents forum is held to discuss these issues. Somerset Council remains committed to improving planning performance, supporting investment and ensuring that applications are determined as efficiently as possible, while maintaining sound and defensible decision making. I personally attend a number of forums, or should I say fora? I don't know. I'm always a bit nervous about sitting in front of a teacher and getting my Latin plurals wrong. A number of these things, and I speak to a lot of agents, a lot of developers. Bill and I, the leader and I, attended a meeting, a breakfast meeting with lots of developers a couple of weeks ago, and the overwhelming response we're getting at the moment is that while everyone, including us, knows that the system is not yet perfect, that there's been a major improvement in performance visible in the last month. And these sorts of meetings that I attend, the people at them are not backwards in coming forwards. If there were issues, they would very much continue to let us know, as they did before we introduced the prioritising decisions period last year. So I'm confident that we're on the right track, that the performance improvement is visible. There is more to do, and we will continue to report back to all members on progress with that performance improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the response, Councillor Healy. I'm sorry, Mark, we don't go back and forth. I do appreciate the need to, but if you want to take that offline and discuss, very happy for you to do that. Thank you very much. And we've got one more, haven't we? It's Councillor Dawn Denton. Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning from sunny Frome.
What a beautiful vista behind you.
Well, we have a beautiful town.
We're looking forward. I think some of us are coming over to say hello tomorrow. So
yes,
looking
see you
forward
all
to that.
Tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks for your question. Go ahead.
Well, they say you keep the best for last. Well, you save the best for last. So let me not disappoint. Somerset Council agreed to allocate Glastonbury Town Deal funding to Tor Leisure, Fusion Lifestyle, for refurbishment work. According to Companies House, Fusion Lifestyle has been showing signs of financial instability for a while. So question one is, when was this money released to the Glastonbury Town Deal, and what was the financial status of Fusion Lifestyle at that time? Question two, what due diligence was undertaken regarding Fusion's financial position, such as up-to-date filed accounts, prior to approving and releasing these funds? And question three, which also has a typo, I'll bring out my red pen, but as Fusion has gone into administration as of the 1st of April 2026, what options do the council have to recover or claw back any of this funding, either contractually or through other means? Thank you.
Thanks very much for the question. I'm not going to rank them as to whether that was the best for last, but I will ask Councillor Liz Lishon to respond.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Denton, Dawn, and yes, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. The Town Deal project, known as the Glastonbury Community Sports and Leisure Hub, was funded by government as part of the 23.6 Town Investment Plan. None of the 2.23 million funding for this project was paid to Fusion Lifestyle. The lease was taken back by Somerset Council as owner of the freehold, while the facility, known locally as Tor Leisure, was closed for the refurbishment. When the refurbishment project was complete and ready for fit out, the lease was reinstated. Fusion Lifestyle took responsibility for the fit out, including the gym equipment, furniture and lockers, and this expenditure shows as the match funding of 300,000. At no point was any town deal funding paid to Fusion Lifestyle for this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the clarity on that one. Liz, I think that concludes all the questions from councillors to the executive. Yep, there's general nodding, that's good. So we move on to item 6 with the executive forward plan. Any questions or comments on that, please? Not seeing anybody. Okay, so that's just an item for noting. So we duly note. Which brings us on to item 7, which is the Somerset Council Plan, Vision and Associated Priorities Refresh 2026. And it's my great pleasure to introduce the item, and then I will pass on to Sarah Hawkins, who's been one of the team working really hard on this. So this report asks executive colleagues to consider and recommend to full council the approval of a refreshed vision for Somerset Council, and together with its associated missions and principles. This is about ensuring the council has a clear, shared and up-to-date sense of purpose, one that reflects both the reality of where we are now as a unitary council and the future that we're trying to shape for Somerset's residents and communities. Our existing vision and priorities were developed before vesting day, and this was a time when the council's primary focus was in merging together 5 organisations into one. That work was necessary and important. We wanted all 5 councils to be reflected in the new authority, but the context has changed significantly since then. We now face different and more acute pressures, including ongoing financial challenges, increasing demand on our services, the need to transform how we work, and feedback from members, officers and external partners, including the Corporate Peer Challenge and audit findings, has been clear that we need a more compelling vision to guide decision-making, prioritisation and the council's culture, and to support decision-making. This refreshed vision responds directly to this feedback. It has been developed with a strong focus on culture and how we can work as one council, aligned with the Inspiring Innovation programme and our broader transformation journey. Colleagues from across the organisation have been involved throughout, helping to ensure the vision is grounded in what matters most to residents and communities, and that is something people can recognise themselves in and actively use to guide their work. I'd like to hand over to Sarah Hawkins, the Head of Assurance, Performance and Risk, to cover any additional points, including the impact on the Council's corporate plan. Sarah.
Thank you very much, Bill, and good morning, everybody. Sarah Hawkins, Head of Assurance, Performance and Risk, and as Bill said, I've been part of the cross-cutting team who've been working on the development of the new vision. So as Bill's touched on, why are we doing this now? So the scale of changes that we have experienced since vesting day have required us to reflect on our current vision, both in terms of its appropriateness and its effectiveness, in particular in guiding our organisational decision making and the allocation of resources related to that. So we've had feedback from our peers, our auditors, our external reviews, and they've suggested that it isn't effective and that we really need something that gives us that clear sense of strategic direction. This feedback has also been supported by our staff. So for our staff, understanding what the vision means for them and how they contribute to it is really vitally important to ensure that we do all pull in that same direction and focus on the right things within available resources. So in terms of how we've created it, so the paper describes that in section 2 on page 24 of your reports pack, and staff have had a role in that. They've had a role from the outset in terms of guiding it, and then also in terms of shaping and refining it. The work was initiated via our culture survey just before Christmas in December last year, and that was really purposeful, really recognising the fundamental role that a strong corporate vision plays in inspiring teams, building that belonging, and ensuring that every employee is aligned and motivated to contribute to what good looks like for the organisation. The approach has balanced the need for pace with ensuring that there have been opportunities, as I've said, for staff to get involved. And the vision was considered by scrutiny last week in a really good session that gave us lots of feedback to consider to take forward to full council when this goes on the 20th. The actual vision itself is detailed in Appendix A, and it sets a clear ambition for Somerset, a fairer, better future. It's supported by 3 clear missions or priorities, and these describe what the council will focus on to achieve that future. So those are opportunity, making Somerset a place where everyone can thrive and succeed; connection, helping people and places stay connected; homes is the final one, supporting people to live in safe, healthy homes that meet their needs. You'll also see that the refreshed vision is further underpinned by a set of organisational principles, and these principles will guide how the council works and deliver services. There are 5 being proposed for consideration today. Those are: we listen and work together with residents and partners to make the biggest difference. When we say we'll do something, we'll do it well. Our communities are where it happens. Prevention comes first. It guides everything we do. And we take action to protect Somerset's natural environment and tackle climate change. I just want to say that those are before the scrutiny feedback last week, and I know that scrutiny feedback has been considered, and there may be some suggestions from executive today. So these principles are intended to shape our culture, behaviours and ways of working, aligning with wider organisational development activity, and full detail and descriptors are in Appendix A. Before I hand back, I just wanted to say a little bit about the corporate plan. So in alignment with the development of the new vision, officers are producing and working on a corporate plan, and that plan will set out the actions and milestones to aid delivery of the vision over the next 18 to 24 months. So Appendix B has an overview of the proposed framework for the corporate plan, and that will be brought back to executive in August for approval following engagement with scrutiny, which looks like it will be likely in July. Appendix C also displays our golden thread diagram, and hopefully that shows a clear pictorial representation of how our vision and corporate plan will connect the strategic intent into meaningful action at corporate, service and individual officer levels. And as we've said, this framework will guide transformation activity and the alignment of investment and resources, and importantly, alignment with our medium-term financial plan. So going forwards, we really hope it will help support the council's next phase of development by providing clarity, focus and a stable foundation for delivery in the ongoing challenging operating environment that we face. So finally, a reminder that our ask of Executive Committee today is to agree the draft council vision and missions as set out in Appendix A are recommended for approval at full council on the 20th. And as I've said, that's subject to any amendments that Executive propose following consideration of the scrutiny feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And can I just ask that you pass our thanks on to Joe Walsh as well, who has worked incredibly hard on this and presented to scrutiny. He's not able to be with us today, unfortunately, due to a bereavement, and I do understand. Our sympathies go out to him at this stage, but his work on this has been really superb, and I think we do need to recognise that. So I would very much like to thank the Corporate and Resources Scrutiny for raising out a number of points that are set out in the addendum that was shared with members last week. I'm not seeing Councillor Pugsley online. No, I'm not. That's okay. I just didn't want to speak for him because he is much better at speaking than me. So the addendum was produced by officers within the Insurance Performance and Risk Service, and their summary of scrutiny's feedback. In order to make sure that the scrutiny comments were addressed ahead of executive, we wanted to publish the addendum to allow for executive consideration. The addendum is consistent with the outcomes that will be published from the meeting. As a result of scrutiny feedback, I'll be proposing some amendments today that we feel will enhance and improve the vision within Appendix A. It is considered that these changes will strengthen the focus on outcomes for communities, improve clarity and grammatical consistency, and ensure the work framework more clearly reflects the Council's commitments to infrastructure, early working for children and young people, climate resilience, and partnership working across Somerset. In order to go through these efficiently, I tend to break it into 6 areas of focus, which I will cover in sequence, and then pause and ask for any comments on each of them. So area 1 is around the principles and climate change impact. Based on feedback from scrutiny members and officers, I'm proposing that the principles are reordered, reduced from 5 principles to 4, and rewritten in response to feedback with the aim of making them more succinct, memorable, and easily recitable. Importantly, this can be achieved without losing the underlying intent or substance of the principles as set out in Appendix A. And the proposal to members is as follows. First of all, to reorder the principles so that prevention comes first is the first bullet point. Prevention comes first, it guides everything we do. We listen and work together in our communities. When we say we'll do something, we do it well. And climate change resilience is part of how we plan and deliver. This will strengthen the profile of climate change to better reflect the Council's commitment to embedding climate resilience across all areas of Council activity. In addition to this, the description for climate change resilience is part of how we plan and deliver is expected to read, we're committed to protecting Somerset's natural environment and support action on climate change, ensuring that we are prepared for and resilient to the impacts of climate change. We will focus on changes we can deliver as a council, from how we run our services to how we can plan, build and invest. Members, do you have any comments on those sections that we are rewording? First of all, members of the executive. Councillor Wakefield.
Sure, if I was listening properly there. This is coming from scrutiny, or is it coming from? I'm not quite sure where this has come from.
So subsequent to the scrutiny meeting, our officers went through the feedback from scrutiny. They met with myself and Councillor Leishon to look at the feedback and to look at some rephrasing and to take on board the feedback that we had, particularly around the challenge that this was not reflecting the resilience point around climate change that was very well made by Councillor Steve Ashton during that scrutiny meeting.
Bearing that in mind, so what the one that we're not having is the first one, is that we will listen and work together with residents?
I think we've combined that.
Oh, I see. Right.
With so all the points are there, but we've reduced it to make it more pithy and memorable and succinct, concise. And I'll get my thesaurus out for some more words in a moment, if that helps.
Could I say then that I'm very pleased that people are focusing on prevention. Yeah. This is what we're focusing on in our adults team and also in housing as well. And it's what the NHS is focusing on. It's what the government is focusing on at the moment as well. So provided we stay aligned with what the government's doing, because I think it might be quite difficult to do this if they weren't in line with us. I think it might be more difficult to do it anyway. But as they are targeting some of the funds they give us for housing and that sort of thing towards prevention, it is very welcome. And I think there's no doubt that we all will probably be able to agree with that. I don't really have any other problems with the principles. I just wanted to say that when we discussed this with officers at the executive, housing was a very popular and important point of that discussion. And I think we all know that although we wish to make more houses or build more houses or homes or dwellings, whatever you like to call them, in Somerset, and we are being made or required to put a lot in our local plan, I think the ability to deliver those, and the ability to deliver the council vision is very important too. Now, we have got things we can do, and we'll be talking about them later when we talk about the HRA. But there are things that we can't do without government help. So I think it's right to recognise that we all believe that a home is the most important thing for somebody to live a decent life. and without a home, it's extremely difficult to do that. But I'm glad it's there, but I'm glad it's not the most important one, because I think that would be difficult to achieve.
Yeah, I absolutely wouldn't disagree with any of that. I think the work in the Somerset Board of recognising that housing and homes are one of the major determinants of health and well-being in Somerset that we need to focus on was absolutely. And if we're going to get into that prevention space, we need to make sure that housing and homes and homelessness are very much a focus for this council. Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I just like to say I welcome the addition that scrutiny has put into this piece, especially the work of Councillor Steve Ashton, who really is leading the way on climate change, which is such an important issue in Somerset. We live with the consequences of climate change in Somerset daily. So I think it's worth noting the way he has led on this so vividly.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other lead members want to comment on this section. Councillor Dave Mansell.
Yes, thank you, Leader. To be honest, I hadn't expected to be requesting to speak at the meeting today. I was just tuning in to observe. However, we've got some new wording here since the discussion that some of us were involved with at corporate scrutiny. Now, let me just see. Sorry. Yeah. Now, when we actually have had a discussion. There's been discussion from scrutiny members that the recording of what we'd requested, particularly on climate change, didn't actually quite reflect what we had been asking. Now. It had been agreed that the record of what we were asking would be amended, but I have gathered and seen an email this morning that for some reason that apparently hasn't made its way through. Now, the point that we were making was that with regard to climate change, it should cover what is called both mitigation and adaptation. Now, we are regrettably in a situation where climate change is continuing to get worse and will be with us for decades, if not centuries to come, because of the actions we've been taking, as humanity. Now, so the important point is here, we do need to adapt to climate change. We have no choice. We've got some devastating consequences coming our way. But what we also need to do is what is called mitigation. And that means make our contribution to reducing it from occurring. And the sooner we do that, the better. And that's really important. And that was also a central feature of the climate emergency declarations that we've adopted. Now, the wording that I've heard is that there's being an emphasis put on climate resilience. Climate resilience, definitions, dictionaries and the like, that is referring to the adaptation side of things. And that is important. So, really pleased to see that will be given some priority. But also there needs to be priority to the mitigation, to reducing climate change, so it doesn't get even worse. And the wording that I've heard written out there doesn't address that. It's focusing just on the adaptation and resilience side. So in my view, a further adjustment is still needed. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback, Councillor Mansell. I think we're in danger of getting into semantics here. I would push back and say resilience for me encompasses both mitigation and adaptation. I don't really want to get into a into a difficult debate about the meanings of words when actually what we need to do is get on and write the corporate plan, which will have the actions in it that you're asking for. So I'm not sure. I'm just sensing that there is a disagreement about meanings of words rather than a disagreement about the outcome from scrutiny. Was my interpretation of this. I don't know whether Sarah would like to just add a little bit.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Councillor Mansell. On the connection header under Appendix A, and apologies, I'll try and find the reports page online for you. We've also got explicit reference to support a range of projects that reduce the likelihood of flooding and other climate change impacts. That's on page 37. So it sits woven through each of the three missions, in addition to being a principle that cuts through everything that we do. But we have got some explicit reference within connection as well.
Okay, thank you. And move on to Councillor Helen Kay.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. I'm afraid that I've just come back from a 2-week holiday. So I think the agenda for scrutiny came out the day that I left, and then I've come back and it's already at executive. So I've quickly looked through all the papers. So excuse me if I haven't picked up on certain things. First of all, in terms of engagement, I'd like to agree with the scrutiny point about engagement with all other members. I see that there's been quite a lot of intensive workshops with the executive and with staff, and with some residents groups. Now, when the vision went out last time, there was a criticism, not just from me, but from others, that the residents that were consulted with were mainly business people around the Taunton area. And I'm just a bit concerned that other members, aside from going to the scrutiny committee and attending this meeting today, they don't really know what's going on. There was one opportunity in December to comment on 3 new principles, I think, that came out in December. You could comment on that, and I wrote to Theo on that, and I was not included in any further consultations specifically. So I don't know if I've missed something, but I'm a bit concerned that this is going to be a vision that has been developed primarily by staff and by the administration, not by all other members. And in terms of the timeline, I assume that I actually welcome what I've just heard that scrutiny have put forward, and I welcome the new wording because that's rather different from what I read last night. And I'm just a bit concerned about the timeline now, because we haven't got long before the full council meeting. And is there going to be time really for all other members to read and digest that and put forward any other amendments that they wish to see on that second draft? So yeah, I'm just a bit concerned about the process, and I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that. Thank you.
Just looking at whether Duncan or Sarah or want to comment about process.
If I could, Leader, just to remind Councillor Kay, the feedback I think she was saying she sent to Councillor Butterfield in December, members were asked if they wanted to feed in, and the original evidence base that we used was built from member comments, the data that we had, officer views and everything else, and that's what fed into the initial conversations, which started to shape the document from the beginning. In terms of process, I think we're okay in terms of process, in terms of timeline to get the information to members within the appropriate time frame. And obviously I would just remind Councillor Kay that council itself is its own scrutiny effectively. So council does involve all members will be involved in the final decision on the vision. So the paperwork will be out in time for that meeting. So it does give people, in a process sense, I think I appreciate the meaning of Councillor Kay's question, but in a process sense, I think we're absolutely fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, Councillor Kay. This isn't a conversation. You've asked your question, but if you have specific phrasing that you think would improve it, the offer is there that we could look at that and change it at full council. But yeah, it has gone through that a process of working with members, going through scrutiny, and now at executive, you and Councillor Mansell have made your points. We need to what I'm really worried about is actually that we're discussing words rather than doing action, and that's where I want council to move on to the corporate plan as quickly as possible. If we can get it through with your cooperation, that would be fantastic. Is there something additional on the first point, Councillor Wakefield?
I just wanted to say, I think, you know, with something like this, it's been to scrutiny, but it can go into groups, in your groups in the council, and then you can discuss it and bring things back. And if you don't, then that's the opportunity that you have, I think. And the other thing I would say, actually, just to align with what they've been saying about climate change, we had a speaker from the Environment Agency at the LCN that I'm part of, and she said this: you are living your best life now. It's only going to get worse, the climate. And I feel that very strongly, actually. I thought that was very helpful and quite a moving thing to say, because what we enjoy now in our climate is not going to stay the same, because as a society, as humanity, we are not doing enough to stop the changes happening. Now, in the council, we can do what we can do. We can have electric vehicles. We can, the things that we can influence, and we can encourage people to recycle effectively, to not pollute the environment further. But there is only so much we can do, and it does need the support of government, and it needs international support to do the work that we need to do to protect this environment for the rest of our children and our grandchildren.
Yeah, thank you. So I've concluded area 1, and we've got 5 more areas to go, but I hope the next 5 will be more straightforward, because I think they are more around phraseology and adding words in and taking words out rather than anything else. So area 2, the second section is in relation to phraseology and grammar. I'm proposing that the word today is removed from the descriptions of the missions to ensure that they remain future focused, and also to improve grammatical consistency. The missions are amended to use make, help and support rather than making, helping and supporting. Does anyone disagree with those? Because they are just semantic changes in drafting. Any members wish to comment on that? No, I think we're all happy with those. Area 3, so the third area is linked to the connection mission. I'm proposing that this is amended to read help people and communities stay connected instead of people and places. The change will ensure that the mission is more reflects the needs of communities within a place, and I think community talks about how people are connecting together as part of that community, and it's not just focused on geographic places, because we've had the feedback that communities sometimes are around how people's lifestyle is. I consider myself to be part of a cricket community, for example, and that's a community that we feel part of. So just that change from place to community. Anyone have a problem with that change of one word? Oh, it's wonderful. It's like a horse designed by a committee, isn't it? Area 4, I am proposing that in line with scrutiny's recommendation to elevate the importance of infrastructure across Somerset. Additional text references to infrastructure be included in both the connection mission and the homes mission that will align with the scrutiny's comments regarding the provision of play equipment for children and young people. So connection point 7 will be changed to read use local plans, planning system and associated infrastructure to shape well-connected places, enabling people to stay connected and resilient. And the homes point 3, adding the words appropriate infrastructure. Anyone got any comments about those drafting changes? Not on the executive, other members? Oh, sorry, Heather, go for it.
Thank you for giving me. I know that one of my key skills is not taking in information simply in spoken form. So I was grateful that scrutiny picked up about children, obviously, as you'd expect, and that we wanting children and young people to be front and centre within the mission, and certainly more importantly within the council plan. So could I just check what it? So the piece has been picked up there, because I think it was both play parks and green spaces for children, but there's also something about prevention. Now, prevention will be in the corporate plan. I know it will be, but could I just so clarity, the bit that you're picking up in this one is simply looking at the, I say simply, but singly looking at the green spaces, built environment, and all of that kind of thing to be, if not quite child friendly, but to be built with children and young people in mind. Was that the concept there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we definitely need to use infrastructure to be able to develop healthy ways of living. And if we fast forward to area 5, we're adding in the words including early intervention into the connection mission, which I think also strengthens up the point that you're making. You see what I did there? I carefully segued from 4 to 5. Does anybody have any comments on 4 or 5? No, okay. And in area 6, within the mission relating to opportunity, the word in the penultimate point is amended to avoid the duplication of the word visitor. We happy with that? And request the assurance, performance and risk team to ensure that the corporate plan framework Appendix B is updated to reflect the changes and integrate the principles into the corporate plan to ensure they are interconnected. Okay, so we've had that feedback from scrutiny. We have made some, I think, some quite significant changes to the wording and the sense of direction that I think is there. What we need to, but we can get this onto full council, get agreement there. I know the team is already preempting that by working very hard on getting the corporate plan into place. And I know that a number of people were saying, but what does this mean? Where's the detail? And that's the corporate plan. And that's why I'm keen to get us onto that corporate plan stage of the process. Okay. Are there any comments overall? I think Councillor Diogo Rodriguez kind of nudged there. So don't go to an auction, Diogo, you might miss out.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a couple of points, questions on the officer's introduction to the report. In the introduction, officers said that this came forward partly as a result of feedback from auditors, peers and other organisations that need to update the vision. And I'm just wondering, has that feedback been made available to members to understand more background behind the changes and the reason why this is coming forward? So I've not seen anything. Perhaps I've missed some of that feedback in the detail. And just about the corporate plan, and it's good that there's a date for that coming forward in August. I'm only wondering about the other bits, because looking at the golden thread, there's more than just the vision and the corporate plan as other elements too. And I'm just wondering if those other elements are going to be, any other elements are going to be changed as a result of the changes to the corporate plan as well, looking at the golden thread, and if so, when may that come through too? Okay,
I'll come in on the first one. That all the documents referred to are in the public domain. It's in the first corporate peer challenge report. It is in the auditor's report. I'm trying to remember whether it was referenced in the CIPFA report as well. Anyway, all of those, that advice was referenced in those peer reports. So please go back and read them again. They're a fascinating, right, riveting read. Okay, yeah.
Just on that, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So some of the feedback from the most recent LGA peer review where they came back to do whatever piece of work they did, for example, because I've not seen any feedback from that visit they did, and whether that's influenced anything.
Alan, have you?
Thank you, Chair. We've had the feedback from the LGA that will be published in due course. We're just clarifying 2 key points of them regarding their financial assessment and the summary points that they made. But other than that, it's been completed and will be published to all members. And it was just to follow up, just to remind all members, the substance of the point that drove the original need for the plan was set out in the original peer review over 12 months ago.
Okay, and the second point on the golden thread diagram, Duncan's reached for his microphone. Well, that was. Everyone wants to answer your question today, Diogo.
What just needs to be quicker on that button. So yes, there are a number of other documents and particularly key strategies that will contribute towards the golden thread. Putting the vision together doesn't mean that automatically everything else falls and we have to rewrite everything. What we'll do is, as we go through a process of reviewing and updating strategies, we will amend them to make sure they all align over a period of time. Whether it's something that the new vision or the corporate plan says, which is now at odds with an existing document, of course, we'll need to make sure we get that part amended. But it doesn't mean that everything will immediately go up for review. We'll have to do that over a period of time as we actually review documents. So if there's any sort of clashes, as it were, between policy intent, then we'll rectify that. Otherwise, we'll make sure over a period of time that we align everything properly.
Okay, so we've been through all the 6 points. So there were 3 other points that scrutiny raised that I just want to address now. The first was the ability to deliver within financial and resource constraints. So scrutiny sought assurance that the proposed vision, missions and corporate plan are realistic and deliverable, reflecting the current financial and resource position and alignment with the NTFP. So the response to that is, I want to take the opportunity to reassure scrutiny, the executive and will at full council that the corporate plan that sets out the actions we will take over the next 18 to 24 months will be delivered within the NTFP envelope. For example, Wave 1 funded transformation activity that we have committed to will be part of our corporate plan, and Wave 2 proposals will also be included as they are approved, with the approach supporting budget setting in 27-28. The second point was clarity on the level of member engagement and opportunities to engage. Scrutiny sought clarity on the level of member engagement in the development of the vision, including the opportunities available for members to contribute. And we'd like to draw members' attention to section 2.0 of the report, which covers members' engagement. While this engagement remains important, there is a clear need to move at pace to maintain momentum and ensure the vision is progressed in a timely way alongside the development of the corporate plan and supporting delivery arrangements. And thirdly, the integration with the culture programme. Scrutiny requested further information on how the new council vision will align with the council's current culture programme. So the response to that is the refreshed council vision is a core part of the council's wider culture and transformation programme. The work recognises that Somerset Council is heavily investing in transformation and culture change to reshape how the organisation works, makes decisions and delivers for residents. Officers have had a role in shaping the vision to promote buy-in from the outset to develop something we can all relate to that gives a strong sense of common purpose. Can I just thank the officers who worked with myself and Liz on our responses to those points arising from scrutiny. Okie dokie, so we are, if there's no other speakers, so we have a recommendation to agree the draft council vision and missions as set out in the appendix and recommend for approval at full council. Does that need any amending, or is that appendix includes the scrutiny recommendations?
It includes the lot, Chair.
Okay,
you're good.
So happy that we're happy that that includes that, and as always, if there is any change that members want, if you can get in touch, it's a lot easier to start do that work off camera rather than in debate at full council. I'm very conscious that we need to get buy-in throughout the organisation on this. So I'd like to propose it from Councillor Liz Lyshawn, seconded. Okay, Richard Wilkins, I think, won that one. Those in favour, those against, that's clearly recommended to full council. How are we doing? We're ahead of time. Great. I'm going to make that a habit. Right. So we move on to agenda item 8, which is the Inspiring Innovation quarterly update. This would normally be introduced by Theo Philip, but as we know, he's indisposed this morning. So I can hand over directly to Sarah Cratney to be able to give us the updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to be able to share with you the Q4 update on the Inspiring Innovation Whole Council Transformation Programme. This sets out the progress over the past quarter, so January to March. And the recommendation is the executive is asked to review and comment on the Inspiring Innovation Programme quarterly update report. By way of introduction, the Inspiring Innovation Programme, as you know, was established in July last year and is all about helping the council to work differently, improving services, using our technology more effectively, and strengthening how we lead and manage change. What we're doing here is we're bringing together people, digital capability, and new ways of working. And that means that the programme is focused on improving outcomes for residents, supporting the council's long-term financial sustainability, and creating a better working experience for our workforce. The report that you've got in front of you today sets out the immediate priorities for inspiring innovation, which centre on 3 main areas which we are running concurrently. This is important to understand that we're running these concurrently, because this demonstrates the pace we're working at and the ambition of this whole council transformation programme. Those 3 main areas are, number 1 is delivering the approved transformation activity. We're calling this Wave 1. The second is developing the next pipeline of business cases in time for member approval for the 27-28 budget setting. And we're calling this Wave 2. These will be followed by further waves over the life of the programme. The third element is progressing the longer term vision for the future council. And we've just spent time hearing about the vision that we are setting for the council for the future. It's been a really important quarter for the programme, not least because 5 additional transformation business cases were approved by full council in March and are now live as part of Wave 1, alongside activity already underway. Collectively, Wave 1 is focused on the areas of greatest cost and demand pressure, so particularly adult social care, children's services and core enabling functions. It's designed to deliver both improved outcomes and also tangible impact on the medium-term financial plan. And this is set out in pages 52 to 55 of your report. Across Wave 1, as I've said, activity is live, teams are mobilised, and we're beginning to identify and track early operational benefits in priority areas. Importantly, we're making sure that we're maintaining momentum as projects move from approval into delivery, making sure that we don't lose any pace at that point. The pace of delivery gives us confidence to begin bringing in those Wave 2 activities and bring that forward earlier so that we can sustain momentum. So we've put in place a structured pipeline for what comes next, identifying and developing future opportunities. There are around 11 Wave 2 opportunities in active development, with a clear process from moving from early concept through to business case, including assurance on deliverability, capacity and return on investment. Table 1 shows the transformation activity we currently have underway and how it's being managed across the Wave approach. So in the first column, you can see 5 transformation themes. You've got adults and housing, children's services, place, finance, and cross-cutting and enablers. And those themes are how we're organising and managing and governing transformation across the council. So what we've included at Appendix A is a structure diagram which sets that out for you. The second column shows Wave 1, which is activity that members have already approved, which is now in delivery. And you'll also see in that column indicative savings figures shown against many of those projects. Those figures reflect the expected impact across the life of the medium-term financial plan, not single-year savings, and they mature over time as delivery embeds. The second column shows Wave 2, which is about development rather than commitment at this point. These are the opportunities that are being explored, tested and assured. So inclusion in this table and in Wave 2 column of this table doesn't mean they automatically move into delivery. Each one has to pass affordability, capacity and deliverability checks before any decision is taken as part of the democratic decision-making process. A couple of points worth highlighting is in adults and housing, you can see that the emphasis is on stretching and deepening Wave 1 delivery in Wave 2 rather than adding more separate business cases. In children's services, Wave 2 reflects areas where further work is needed to understand the feasibility and impact given the complexity in the system. And in cross-cutting and enablers, you can see how things like supplier value optimization, which is the new name for third-party spend, and end-to-end redesign sit with service change rather than being separate programs. The key message that we want to get over in Table 1 is that we're holding both the delivery and discipline together. We're delivering what's approved while tightly managing what comes next. I've said this a number of times, I like the idea of calling them waves because each wave builds upon the one before it, increasing the scale and ambition of what the programme can deliver. And over time, this strengthens the organisational foundations and builds confidence in delivery. And also, importantly, embeds the cultural behaviours needed to sustain meaningful change. So alongside these three key areas, we're also starting early work on longer term. Sorry, the third area is starting work on longer term cross-council transformation. And this is linked to the council vision and focuses on whole system drivers of cost and demand. And so this is where we increase our focus on prevention, cross-cutting redesign, and our future operating model, rather than individual service projects. Alongside this, and there are lots of things all coming together as part of this transformation programme, we're also strengthening the critical organisation enablers. So this report that you've got in front of you incorporates modern data and applied AI as embedded within the inspiring innovation rather than separately, because this is explicitly linking and reflecting the importance of this enabling work in delivering better outcomes for people and communities. And that's so page 55 to 56 of this report covers that. What's really important about the modern data capability, this is fundamentally about giving services timely, reliable insight so that decisions are based on evidence, not assumption. Whether that is about understanding demand, where we target intervention, or how we track the impact of change. Within that programme, AI sits as a practical tool rather than a solution in its own right. Our focus for AI is on applied use cases that support professional judgment, improve productivity, and reduce manual effort. All of that operates within an agreed legal, ethical, and governance controls with clear line of sight to benefits. Page 56 describes the emphasis on culture. So we talked a little bit about this and we were talking about the vision earlier. So culture, leadership, organisational capability. It is well documented that the success of major transformation is inextricably linked to culture and leadership behaviours. This report, therefore, is clear that transformation is not just about projects. Large-scale transformation like this requires paying close attention to our culture. And this matters because the changes that we make to how we work together, how we lead, can amplify and accelerate the rate and impact of transformation and make it easier to sustain. So at the moment, cultural discovery work is underway, including we've just closed our staff survey feedback. Excuse me, and there will be deeper engagement. We're excited. So part of our exploring innovation, we're excited that we'll be launching at our leadership briefing this afternoon our AI agent interview process, and we'll let you know how we get on with that. Really important in terms of getting that deeper and broader engagement. And as you've heard, work on the council vision is progressing. Page 57 describes the link to the medium-term financial plan. We're absolutely realistic about the scale of the financial challenge and the really important contribution that transformation will play. So what you've got in table 2 on 57, it shows by directorate or area the total recurring transformation opportunities identified, how much of that is reflected in the current MTFP, the one-off investment needed to enable delivery, and then the expected return on investment. Starting with adult social care and housing, you can see this is where both the largest opportunities and largest investment requirements sit in wave 1. And that reflects the scale of cost and demand pressures in the system and the opportunity to build on the award-winning success of the My Life, My Future programme, which is why we need to look at the transformation as a kind of balanced portfolio, not isolated cases. Taken together, the programme is planned to achieve an overall return of around £3 for every pound invested across the life of the MTFP. Some projects will deliver less than that, others significantly more. What matters is the overall balance. To achieve the 3.1 return by 2030-2031, the programme needs to deliver at least £135 million of benefit, which is why over the next year and beyond, you will continue to see us working tirelessly to maintain momentum, broaden the pipeline, particularly in areas like children's services and third-party spend, and progressively shifting from service-by-service change to whole council and system redesign. This report was shared with Scrutiny at their meeting on the 29th of April, and I want to take this moment to thank the committee for their questions and interest. Whilst there were no recommendations from Scrutiny to Executive, one of the things that Scrutiny were interested in was how the methodology for change works. And I wanted to let you know that we'll be setting up a couple of all-member workshops on the methodology over the coming months. So also in the coming months, just to recap, our focus will therefore be on three things: accelerating delivery of Wave 1, bringing forward robust implementation-ready Wave 2 business cases, and working with members, staff and partners to translate the emerging vision into a clearer operating model that shapes future transformation. Very happy to explore any section in more depth and to provide further briefings where that would be helpful.
I'll see whether he was about to add something, but no, he's going for his flask, which is probably a good idea. Any lead members or associate lead members want to ask any questions on the quarterly updates? Not seeing anybody. Any other members? Diogo.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of observations, if I may, and one question. The recommendation is to comment on this quarterly update report. I would say if I was looking at this from a different side of the table, I would be perhaps wanting a lot more detail on a public quarterly update report. I appreciate the detail that's provided, particularly if you're looking at Wave 1. But for example, just picking the first thing that's on there, the 1.8 million on My Life, My Future, for example, you know, where are we, for example, with that in terms of delivery? Where is the actual more detailed information that we can look at? It may be perhaps available in different reports, but as this is a quarterly update report, a public one, perhaps that should be available in the public domain. And I'm sure all the work's been done behind the scenes. And also trying to understand, because those savings are within the MTFP, is how much is actually being saved within each year on that figure. Perhaps should be more of a publicly put out in this document. And I could say that for all of the elements within this document, I think. Also, the officer mentioned 135 million of benefit. Does that also mean, and maybe I'm being silly in terms of wording, but just does that mean actual cash savings, or can benefit mean a multitude of things? Perhaps, I don't know. Just interested in that use of word.
Thanks, Councillor Rodriguez, for your question. There is the opportunity at Scrutiny to go into that degree of detail, and I know colleagues at Scrutiny did give it a good airing, but it would be just very mindful of the level of detail of your questions, which are welcome, but maybe Scrutiny might be a better place in future for that level of detail. Did you want to take the budget point, Liz?
If I may, please, just to say, when we set the budget, in one of the appendices, and I'll find it and put the link in the chat, where everywhere where there were savings, where it was transformation savings, they were clearly identified. So the whole appendix made it clear where there were transformational savings and where savings were not part of the transformation programme.
Thanks for clarifying, Liz. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Both in Appendix K, which details the business cases, and Appendix HI, which sets out the savings over the year. But it is something that we will be feeding back into these. One of the things I just want to point out, so I would expect in the next quarterly report, so this is January to March, and so the business cases were signed off in March, so I'd expect more detail on progress against those in the next quarterly report. In terms of the 135 million, so that is in cashable savings. So that it isn't. So this is financial benefit, not outcome benefit, which we're also measuring, but just being clear on that.
Okay, not seeing anybody else with questions to ask. Shall we move on to our recommendations? So we're being asked to review and comment on the Inspiring Innovation quarterly reports. Which so in effect it's been noting, I would have said, rather than for a resolution. Is that correct? Okay, so it is noted. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Carl, and all the team that are beavering away on this. We do appreciate all the hard work that goes into this and the importance of delivering at pace, as I think you mentioned. We are ahead of schedule still. I'm going to suggest we take a brief comfort break, if we may. So if we could be back in our seats at 22, so 11:40, and we will recommence then. Okay, so meeting adjourned till 11:40. Thank you. Which is the housing development strategy, building a better and fairer Somerset 25-26 to 30-31. And Councillor Sarah Wakefield's going to introduce and then pass on to Wendy Lewis and Duncan Smith. Welcome both.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm introducing this in the absence of Federica, who's not well at the moment. I'm very pleased to see this coming forward. Of course, I'm going to say that, but it's a good plan. I think that we all know that in the world that we're working in at the moment, for particularly building works, you have to box rather cleverly to get everything through in the costs, in the contingency uplifts we have to put in. There are shortages all over the place, and the fuel thing is not going to help. Lack of fuel is not going to help. My main point, apart from welcoming this report and leaving the officer to introduce it, is to say that if the government could write off our debt in the HRA, we could build 630 extra homes. It's just interesting to know that actually we are working as far as we can within the limits approved by the Section 151 officer, up to the limits of what we can borrow to get homes built in Somerset. We are so lucky to have a body within the council that builds homes, and government should be allowing more councils to build homes and making it happen. And one of the ways they can do that is by taking away our debt. Having said that, I will hand over to the very excellent officers to give you the report in more detail.
Thank you, Sarah. Right, we've just got a few slides, and I'd like to introduce this housing development strategy, which is a joint project with Homes in Somerset. My co-author, Duncan Harvey, is sadly on long-term sick at the moment, so hasn't been able to be present today. But we have a very able replacement at the moment, the interim head of development and regeneration, Duncan Smith, who is with me today. We've been to scrutiny with this already on the 9th of April. There wasn't time to get the resolutions in the report, so I'll just read those out. They supported the Council House Development Strategy for consideration by the Executive. It says to note that the development programme would be approved annually through the Housing Revenue Account capital budget process. And they requested that the strategy be treated as a live document subject to review and amendment as necessary and at least every 5 years. So I'd like to hand over to Duncan to do a brief synopsis of the strategy as we've just run through a few slides.
Thanks, Wendy. Morning, everyone. Can I just start by commending the Council on adopting a new development strategy and delivering additional affordable housing in Somerset, something which many local authorities are not doing. So the development strategy sets out an ambition to deliver 580 new homes across the county by the end of the 2030-31 financial year. Homes will be delivered to the highest possible environmental standards, including the recently published Future Home Standard where possible. Tenures will include social and affordable rent plus shared ownership. However, the predominant tenure will be for social rent where it is viable. Move on, Wen, thanks. The strategy also aims to deliver specialist housing for those in need, and this can include people with long-term disabilities or displaced persons. However, the objective of delivering specialist housing is likely to take a little longer and eat up more precious resources. This is especially pertinent with the international situation driving up construction cost. And I do need to talk about risk as well when we're talking about development strategy and development outcomes, because risk is really, really important to be managed. And as I mentioned at scrutiny, us entering into fixed price contracts would be a desirable outcome in a situation where construction cost is rising so exponentially. Temporary housing solutions are also envisaged to reduce cost pressures on the council's budget, and regeneration and innovation are also key to the strategy outcomes. But again, the former is likely to take a little longer to deliver, while the latter will require partnership working between the council and maybe the private sector to achieve those outcomes. Whilst it is a desire of the strategy to deliver for social rent for those most in need, it's also essential that capital resources are recycled into the development process where possible, and shared ownership tenure assists with that, while assisting those who wish to buy their own homes more affordably. We must make sure that our partnership with Homes England to lever in new grant funding for development is especially strong, and this will assist in delivering the high environmental standards, reduce fuel poverty and deliver the social rent objective for customers. We will seek therefore to secure resources through the Social and Affordable Homes Programme 26 to 36. The strategy also seeks to deliver integrated development within villages and towns that can support sustainable growth. It will be important for all residents to be connected to the services which sustain their lives. Finally, it's imperative that the council works in partnership with Homes in Somerset, the wider register provider cohort and the development industry to maximise the number of affordable homes delivered through this strategy, and also the planning system. We strongly support maximising Section 106 delivery through a robust policy framework in the local plan. That's it from me, Chair. Happy to take any questions, of course.
Thank you very much, Duncan. And Councillor Mike Rigby, you were waving at me very early on.
I was, yes. I just wanted to make a point that I fully endorse what Councillor Wakefield said. I just make the slight differentiation in as much as when we're requesting government to waive our debt, it is in fact their debt that they handily threw our way. So I just wanted to make that point clear. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an important distinction in terms of the debt around the HRA, the Housing Revenue Account, is different from other sectors, and that's where we are. And I've got Liz, who's probably going to give me chapter and verse on this now.
I'll try not to do that, Chair, but it is really important that we make it clear that the bit of debt we're talking about is the debt payment to government. It refers to the 2012 self-financing settlement where councils paid government to exit the national subsidy system, resulting in what they call sustainable ring fence model. That was 133 million between what was Sedgemoor and what was, I presume, Taunton Deane before Somerset West and Taunton. If government really wanted councils to build at greater pace homes for social rent, one way they could do that would be to write off that portion of the debt. So that portion of the HRA debt, which is a portion obviously of the overall council debt, and it is really important to understand that debt overall is the treasury management of this council. The HRA debt has to be affordable to the HRA, and that is something our 151 officer has explained to us through scrutiny and other meetings on a number of occasions. At 133 million, even if we didn't use all of that allowance, were it ever to become an allowance by government, would enable us to double our ambition for building social rent homes in Somerset. And that is what we would like to see. And our MP, Gideon Amos, is also bringing that up in government wherever he can. It is a big ambition because over the whole country, it was obviously a huge amount of money. There are other councils that have land, their own land, they have planning permission, but they cannot build the homes for social rent because they do not have the headroom in their HRA borrowing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's more than doubling because I think the figure is 630 homes that we'd be able to unlock if that debt was forgiven or written off, taken back. I'm not quite sure what the word is, but yeah, it's if government want us to deliver, there is an easy way of removing the brake. Heather.
Thank you, and thank you for this strategy. It's really good to see, and absolutely, I couldn't be more supportive of increasing the number of social housing or housing, which is genuinely affordable rather than affordable. I really improved by that. I guess in terms of the strategy, I'm just and the work that you're doing here and your plans. I am always concerned also about temporary accommodation and temporary housing, and I know we made some decisions about putting some investment into that. But how's the strategy going to enable us or help us address what's a really horrible, wicked kind of issue? I think, which is about temporary accommodation.
Interesting question, because it's a difficult one, and I think the answer is probably more around using existing buildings to transform into something for temporary accommodation. Been working in Buckinghamshire recently, where we did a lot of activity about converting offices, for example, into new temporary accommodation. The slight problem is there's no grant available from Homes England to support that function, so it becomes a solely self-funding and therefore very, very expensive thing to do. So I think there's possibilities, but it's not likely to be at any great scale.
Okay. Not seeing any other lead members, so go to Mark Healy.
Thank you, Chairman. Question. I don't know whether I heard you right or not. Maybe I'm going deaf. But did you refer to? Sorry about that. Did you refer to the cost of materials going up, etc.? So I'd like to, through you, Chairman, if I may, because clearly what we've got at the moment, and I take on board what your colleague said about building as many houses as we can, and the deputy leader said, which I totally enhance and agree with completely. So does Homes in Somerset at this moment in time take into consideration that factor when you've got developers now coming in wanting to build properties on behalf of the council or whatever? So to have your assurance, maybe that's a harsh word, I'll rephrase that. Clearly there is a definite, what's the word I'm looking for? Disconnect between what you think you want financially, what a builder or a developer can do. Do you take that into consideration? Do you factor that in on behalf of the developer? Thank you.
May I, Chair? Yes, not maybe in such a clinical relationship sense. So there are many, many ways we get to be in contract with a developer to deliver a scheme. Probably the most popular, or the one that you would know about most, would be a Section 106 acquisition, where a developer was building, let's say, 100 houses, and 30 of those houses were for affordable housing. So we would contract with that developer to acquire those 30 properties, and that would be done at a fixed price. So we'd do an appraisal, and there would be an amount of money relevant to those 30 properties, and it would be fixed in contractual terms. Also, then we can do land-led delivery, where we would have our own land either purchased or within our ownership. We would promote a site through the planning process, and then we would go out to tender to contract with a particular contractor at, again, a guaranteed fixed price within the JCT contract sense, and that would be done with the benefit of grant from Homes England. Now, because the world is moving so quickly in cost terms at the moment, we have a situation where that guaranteed fixed price would probably not be a guaranteed fixed price because materials were going up. So we've got to make sure that we're not putting any local businesses out of business by maintaining that fixed price contract without taking into account material fluctuations. So you can have what's called a fluctuation clause in the contract to make sure that you've got extra money to be able to pay for those increases. And the final methodology normally is a package deal where a developer does the work up front, gets a planning permission, and then contracts with us on a similar basis. So I think we've got to look at the moment for risk averse contracting methodologies, and actually the Section 106 acquisition at a fixed price means that we get the best deal from that way of contracting presently. So that's what we'd be looking to do, or that's what I'd be suggesting that we do for the council programme for the foreseeable future, while reintroducing those other methodologies when the cost inflation has been mitigated or is lesser.
Okay, thank you for the question and the response, Duncan. And Diogo?
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions from me. I'm only wondering, and I think this may have been covered in scrutiny, the response to this, is how does the cross-party housing task and finish group, the work that they are doing, feed into this, or does it not feed, or will it not feed into this? The second one is just an observation. What we say we do, and then what we say we want to do, and then what we actually end up doing sometimes are different things. And just one of the elements I want to point out is around the vision to deliver 580 new council homes over 6 financial years, which is very good. But just noting that more than half of those 580 new council homes are in Taunton, looking at the appendix. And if you live in other parts of the county, like I know Wincanton, because Tom's sitting next to me, you may feel that this is very Taunton-centric, which I'm sure it's not meant to be. And as we move forward, the ambition is for it not to be. We know that. And then the last thing is around Section 106, and the way in which the local plan kind of reflects what the strategy wants. Just conscious and wondering is how do we tackle that thing that comes up about viability with developers, when one of the first things that drops off is almost always the affordable housing, because if we keep on doing that, then obviously we're not really going to move very far.
I think just I might respond to the first point. I would go back to the point that both Councillor Wakefield and Councillor Rigby have already made about that flexibility to be able to deliver more through that debt remission. And if there were cross-party support in Parliament for that, it would be very welcome to be able to get that forward, because then we would have the headroom to start being able to develop more in the South Somerset and former Mendip areas, which don't have the housing stock because of legacy reasons. So what you're seeing in the delivery pipeline reflects where the geography was before. You'll be aware that we are delivering the first, or have delivered the first council houses in West Somerset for a generation, and we are delivering at London. Charlton Adam, got the wrong village. The first one's in South Somerset for a generation as well. If we had that flexibility, we'd be able to do that just that little bit more in those areas. So absolutely, I don't disagree with the point that you're making, and we need that flexibility to be able to move that forwards. On the second question, I'll go to the expert, Duncan.
Yeah, I think in terms of the geography, we're looking for opportunities everywhere, and we'll continue to do so over the lifetime of the strategy. And I envisage that there will be programme change as a consequence of that, and we'll hope to maximise both the numbers and the quality, as I said in my introduction. In terms of the Section 106 policies, it's absolutely essential that the council has strong Section 106 policies to maximise the number of affordable homes. That is a process rather than an event, and obviously getting the local plan with adequate and sensible and measured Section 106 policies, not to detract from overall development, but to balance that with obviously the organisations who are promoting sites through the planning process have got to make a profit. So there is a robust process to get to a Section 106 policy, but we would obviously urge the council to make that the maximum it possibly can in terms of the percentage of any site for affordable housing.
And Councillor Marcus Gravis online. Oh, Diogo, you're looking mystified.
That was just the first question, which I think perhaps Councillor Wakefield, around the housing task and finish group and the work they're doing.
Sorry, we missed that one. Anyone got any visibility on housing task and finish group and input to this?
I'm not. I don't attend it because I think it's meant to not have the lead officer on it actually, or lead member on it. But yeah, they are doing a lot of work about the housing supply through what's it called? Sorry, No, it's Home Finder. Sorry, Home Finder. Sorry, word got escaped me. And working out, what it means for us and what we can do to improve it, because I don't think everybody out there understands how it works. But I always quote the figures. We've got something along the lines of 13,000 households on the waiting list, and we were getting about 1,500 homes a year, and that may drop actually. But that is not enough. Clearly not enough to satisfy the demand. So I'm glad the Task and Finish group is having a look at it to make sure it's working fairly and we can make some public statement about how it works, but that won't magic more houses. I also just wanted to say about South Somerset and Mendip, we have a good relationship with the registered providers, housing associations in those areas. And one of the things that the HRA has if it has the money, can do is compete in the Section 106 for those houses that come up as part of the agreements for those parts of the county. But it is a competition that the registered providers are after them as well. I mean, sometimes nobody wants them, but it depends who the builder is really. They are, and we can compete with that. If we have the money to do it, we will compete in other areas of the county, not just in the areas we already operate. But understand too that once they come into the council, we will then have to manage them. So you have to look at the distances you're asking your maintenance people to drive when they're managing those houses. And obviously in those two areas, the registered providers are better set up to do that at the moment. Just to bear that cost in mind.
Thanks. All three questions answered now. Thank you. Councillor Marcus Cravis online.
Good morning, Leader. Thank you. Interesting presentation, interesting document. I think there's a couple of things there. I think Councillor Lasham probably answered one of my little points regarding what she said about the government and removing increasing the headroom. And it's interesting that this government seems to talk a good game, but then actually when it comes to delivering, it hasn't been particularly helpful. And another point, just on the fact that it would, the numbers being Taunton-centric, I think that shows the ambition of the former Somerset Western Taunton Council in actually getting things done. And that's a credit to that former council for doing that. And so I think that's probably one of those. I think my main beef is, well, not my beef, I've got this beef, it's the flexibility of this, because I think there's unstored, I think it's tucked away on one of the pages in the night. I think it says underutilized land, but it doesn't actually use the word stored developments and things like that. And obviously, and you won't need many prizes for what I'm probably going to bring up now, is we've got a situation in the west of the county where we got quite a significant development site that's currently stalled and has been stalled for several years. And of course, the lack of flexibility and the lack of headroom means that this council, if it so wished, would struggle to be able to unlock that stalled development. And of course, as being touched upon by previous speakers, we've got the situation where the developer, in all likelihood, or the receiver for that developer, if they're doing their job, will then try and viability out the social housing element of the scheme, which of course is a catch-22. So not only are we now in a position where if we could be more ambitious or maybe more risk, I don't think the word risk averse is the right word, but the opposite, more bullish, we could unlock loads of social housing. But actually, because we end up not only not being able to do that, but we end up losing the social housing we would have got if the development had gone ahead as planned. And I think there was a comment about developers having to make a profit. Well, can we rephrase that as competent developers have to make a profit? Because looking at what some developments do, some developers are more profitable than others. So I think my question is, my two questions coming out here are, how do we make this more flexible? So when, say, I don't want to call it a windfall site, but when an unusual situation develops, like has developed this, we can act. But at the same time, my other question is, how can we make sure that the other housing providers, whether it be housing associations that are not in the former North Somerset area or Taunton Deane area, can be as ambitious as maybe we were at Somerset Western Taunton?
Thank you very much, and thank you for not naming the developers, which could have been an interesting position. Duncan, you look like you are really keen to respond to that.
Yes, Chair. I think it is flexible. I think we're happy to be flexible. I don't think anything is set in stone, and therefore, again, I reiterate all opportunities. Be happy to look at them if there's details to be given. Happy to look at this particular site mentioned to see whether we can unlock it. So, genuine offer there, Chair. In terms of registered providers, they have their own development strategies. I'm not going to have all of those details to my fingertips. Generally, over the last couple of years, it's been more for registered providers to look at grant-funded opportunities than Section 106. Section 106 has been a little unpopular, if you'll forgive me for saying so, Chair. And we, Homes in Somerset, on behalf of the council, can come in and help with delivering those outcomes where registered providers may not be able to do so because their business plans don't allow them to do so. So I reiterate, Chair, I think it is flexible. If there's details of an opportunity that needs to be looked at, we'll happily look at it. If it's viable, it's viable. If it isn't, forgive us, we'll let you know about that too.
I suspect Councillor Cravis is writing you an email at the moment about a specific site in Minehead that I know is a number of people are frustrated by the position with, and hopefully we can take a look. I know it's been looked at before, but if we can, a fresh pair of eyes, it would be amazing if we can find a solution for all. Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any. Oh, Liz, you got under the wire. Well done.
So, Chair, this might be a bit pedantic, but as we've agreed this morning to take the new vision to full council, which is a fairer, better Somerset, is it possible to change the title from Building a Better and Fairer Somerset to Building a Fairer and Better Somerset, so that it all aligns nicely and keeps me happy?
Congratulations on your pedantry, and well spotted. I'm sure I will get it wrong on many occasions, and you will correct me on every single one of them. But yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think we're nodding away on that. Yeah.
Got one further point, and I apologise if this is in the report and I can't put my hand on it. But one of the other things that the HRA does do is occasionally it will dispose of property which, for various reasons, is not worth repairing. It's going to cost more to repair it than it would in, 100 years of rent or something. So we do have that. I have people asking me in my area about houses being sold off. So just to make it absolutely clear that although we try and keep everything we've got, we do have to occasionally sell some because they are simply in a state of repair that would be so difficult to deal with, which should never happen. I agree that it should never happen, but it has happened in the past. And also, if you've got one left and everything else has been sold, again, you've got this maintenance liability out on a limb somewhere. Now, I have fought against those happening in my villages. At least 2 of the 4 they were going to sell, they're going to keep, because we found some money for someone, and I know there's somebody in the one actually in my village now, which I'm very grateful to see. But we all want to keep rural housing. But do remember that if the house is going to be so expensive to manage and bring up to the decent home standards that we must use, it is sometimes impossible to do that in a way that's worth doing financially.
Yeah, point well made, and had an example of Homes in Somerset property in my patch that there was no way it could ever be brought up to standard, and it's now been disposed of or sold subject to contract is what I'm advised. There we go. Okay, all in. So we are moving on to our recommendations. Which he gets his reading glasses out. And our recommendations are that the Executive Committee supports the recommendations being proposed, namely that the strategy is adopted until the 31st of March 2031 to provide guidance and structure to the development programme of the Housing Revenue Account Council Homes, noting the development programme will be approved annually during the HRA Capital Programme budget, and agree that the strategy in Appendix A is reviewed after 6 financial years or sooner if necessary. Is everybody happy with that recommendation? Can I see a proposal from Councillor Sarah Wakefield, seconded by Councillor Liz Lyshawn? All those in favour, please. All those against? That is clearly carried. And Wendy, Duncan, thank you so much for your presentation and for your report and for answering our questions. Okay, so we'll be moving on to agenda item 10, which is the governance framework for the new management agreement and articles of association for homes in Somerset. So not a disconnected topic. And I think we've lost Frederica Smith-Roberts, we've lost Chris Hall. So Clive Heathy is off the subs bench.
I'm on the subs bench. You get the number 2, not the number 1, unfortunately, to present this item. So at the meeting of the 11th of March, Executive approved the transfer of landlord functions, that's the management and maintenance of properties, to one single organisation, and that was the Homes in Somerset, ALMO. Now, underneath that, when we look at the relationship with the ALMO, the council remains the owner of the HRA and the owner of landlord functions. It is the landlord of the properties. So what that agreement does is to move us towards a position of having all of the management and maintenance functions transferred. And there are 2 key documents that govern that. One is the management agreement and the other is the Articles of Association. The management agreement governs the relationship of the council with the ALMO, and that's an important document. And within that, the management fee, the agreed fee for managing those properties, is set out. And you see a series of appendices attached to the document that set out all of the requirements of the relationship, the performance management regime, and the fee proposals, the fee framework, which takes us up to the pre-split area. There's further negotiations still to be done. So that management agreement is the first part. The second part is the Articles of Association of the company. That governs how the company itself runs. The ALMO is an independent organisation run by its own board, but the council is, of course, the shareholder of that organisation. So it both sets the rules for how the company operates, but also gives the protections for the council as the company owner as well. So the report sets out briefly the changes to both of those documents. In terms of the management agreement, it sets out the changes on page 139 of your pack, which is around the name change, sections regarding building safety updates, fee updates, etc. So all of that is really just updating that. And as I made in the point I've made is there's still further negotiations to be done on the split of what that fee will finally look like, and those delegations are there for that. The final point I want to raise is around the Articles of Association, which are slightly further down. My screen is just frozen. So the articles have been updated to allow for clarification around the maximum terms, around the terms of rules around the National Housing Federation Code of Practice. And it's important we recognise that. Wording to extend the maximum of any board member's term, etc. So these are all important things that we want to see in place to make sure the company is well governed. So the report is making recommendation that you accept these 2 documents, which are the key governing documents to make happen the decision that you've already taken on the 11th of March.
Thank you, Clive. Sarah.
Yeah, I welcome this. I think it has been a difficult, well, not a difficult, it's been a process that we've gone through in order to get to this stage. And I feel that having the 2 different organisations within the council running the council house ownership, is something that just has to be brought to an end properly. And I feel, having looked at the report that's been done, and we did have some consultants helping us with the report to recommend that the management should go in this direction, that a slightly, well, the arm's length organisation as it's known, will just have a slightly better opportunity at being a bit more commercial in some of the things it does. It's just the ability to operate a little bit more with a bit more independence, although under the aegis of the council. I'm very happy about this. I think it's going to work very well. And I think bringing the framework through and getting the Articles of Association and the management agreement now before us is very important. And it's the next step in the process. So I welcome it.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the executive? I think you've summed up, pretty well how I think all of us feel on this. Diogo, do you want to just ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, just one.
Just one?
Yes, I'll make it very brief.
I can count to 1, so we're good for this one.
Just around the scrutiny comments / recommendations, just very conscious that the proposal's not been considered by scrutiny, and it says because of the fast track nature of the report. I'd only ask because we've known about this happening for quite some months now, or wanting to happen for quite some months, and I'm just wondering why the opportunity hasn't been given for scrutiny or even the scrutiny chairs to comment, or at least it doesn't say so within bullet point 7 of the report.
Liz, do you want to?
I just want to make the point. My understanding is that the final consultation with tenants was quite recent, very recent, in fact. And so until that was completed, we were not in a position to take this paper to scrutiny or anywhere else. So I think if that seems hasty, I don't think it was hasty. I think it was at pace, but following proper due process.
Yeah, and just note that the report was emailed to the Chair of Scrutiny on the 24th of April and no response there, and he would have been very welcome to have popped it on his agenda. Largely, I mean, it is quite a technical document rather than a policy document. That process had already gone through, so I think this is a logical step that arises from the decision rather than being, it's done a standalone decision. So I would have been surprised had the scrutiny committee put it on their agenda specifically, but would have had no objection, of course. Okay, if everybody's happy, well, we've now got Chris Hall in the room. Perfect. So we can pull off the sub and stick on the star player. We are literally just finishing agenda item 10 on the governance. We were about to go to the vote. If there is any breaking news that you want to share with us.
No breaking news, thank you, Chair.
Well, I couldn't possibly comment. Okay, I think we're now totally distracted and off topic. So the recommendations are: we approve the changes to the management agreement and the articles of association as set out in the report, subject to any final minor changes. Give delegated authority to the head of legal services to finalise and agree on behalf of the council the details of the changes to the management agreement and articles of association as set out in the report in consultation with the executive director and the section 151 officer, to ensure the changes are in the best interest to the council and are legally compliant, to approve the delegated authority to the exec director, and to approve delegated authority to agree the schedules with homes in Somerset. Are we happy to propose? Councillor Sarah Wakefield proposing, Councillor Richard Wilkins seconding. Those in favour, please. Those against, that's clearly carried. Which, thank you very much, Wendy. And thank you, Clive. And thank you, Chris. I think we're now moving on to the Somerset Health and Care Academy, and I can see Lara heading this way. Thank you, Lara. Just let you settle. We should have two people online. Who's coming in online to support?
Is that working? Yeah. So we have Sarah Green, who is the Academy Director appointed by the ICB, who has the lead responsibility on the operation of the Academy once it has been constructed. And we also have Tony Rackstraw, who is appointed by the council and an independent contractor, construction manager, who's leading on the property and build aspects, working with our property team. Thank you.
Right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this. As members will may remember, this is a Levelling Up Fund project that we've inherited from our friends at Sedgemoor District Council, and is to do particularly with the Bridgewater Hospital site, which has been redundant from the NHS, sold to a private developer, and then acquired by Somerset Council for this project. Councillor Sarah Wakefield to introduce. Councillor Mike Wakefield, sorry, Councillor Mike Rigby, did you, I married you off there. My apologies. I'll divorce you instantly. Did you want to chip in as well?
Yeah, I think Mr. Wakefield might have something to say. No, I didn't.
No,
Thank
okay,
you.
so just it'll be Sarah and then going on to Laura. Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Right, the Bridgewater Health and Care Academy, it's, as you've said, a Levelling Up Fund project, which is regeneration as much as anything, well, as part of it. It's not as much as anything else. It's very important what we're doing there. There's been a lot of hard work gone on amongst this, the team assembled before you, including the appointment of Sarah Green as who's developing the funding streams of the proposals and assessment of risks. There is, which are several. It revolves the use of the Levelling Up Fund money, which is subject to constraints, particularly the timing during which it has to be spent. We have achieved an extension of that, but we're still under the constraints of that, spending that money. So it's a great idea, and it has regeneration attached to it, and it's really popular because in Bridgewater, this hospital has needed looking at and developing for a very long time since it's been closed. But the practical achievement of those aims is always harder than people think. So working with the ICB, Somerset Foundation Trust and the Council, we have all had our issues and are working within financial constraints as well. Our Section 151 officer has assessed and approved the documents before you today, but the risks remain. Ultimately, Somerset Council will own the property going forwards, which will have a relatively new bit behind the front facade, which is being retained. That's being built, that will be built. Planning applications are in. I'm sure we'll talk about that. I am really, really excited about this project, which will produce and help our social care workers and people in that industry to be trained and to be kept up to the mark of what they're doing with the latest innovations of training. We'll have special training rooms there. Some of the training will be delivered online. But it's something we need in Somerset. It will provide work. It will provide opportunities for people, and we certainly need that in social care. We need people in social care to work in that field. So I'm very excited about it. It's not without risk, as well as the timing, but I do recommend what's been put forward today for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and move on to Laura.
Thank you. So today we're asking for the executive to do three things: agree the statement of intent that was provided in the appendix, agree the key principles of the heads of terms, and part of those heads of terms have been lifted and put into that paper that you see before you, and also requesting that the executive authorises the head of legal, working with our executive directors of climate, place and economy and adult services and housing, to agree the draft collaboration agreement subject to the full business case, and also for the executive to note that the full business case, including broad terms of collaboration agreement, will be brought back to this meeting in the future for full approval. So if I could pass over now to Sarah Green.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lara, and thank you, Chair. So I was just going to follow up from Lara and just walk through some of the paper just to bring out and highlight some of the key points before we go into any further points of clarification and points. So as I was ready, just to say I'm Sarah, I'm the Academy Director, and I've been in post since January, taking forward the leadership for this project. Just to share then through the paper, you will note that within points 5 to 10, I've identified some of the vision from the Academy. I think, as we've already heard, it's really important to just remind ourselves around the strategic ambition that the Academy affords us, as originally articulated through the Levelling Up Fund, and indeed is continuing to emerge. And you will note that we've done a refreshed vision and strategic objectives that have all been co-designed with a number of stakeholders and partners, and ultimately how it affords us to the communities that we serve in enabling the current and future models of care, and indeed within our current and future workforce as we're mobilising the Academy. So again, I would hasten to add, it really offers an exciting opportunity for Somerset in an integrated way of doing things differently together to the benefit of our communities and our workforce. Just to briefly then highlight a few areas, the revenue model in points 11 to 19. This has been developed and worked with each of the finance leads across each of the organisations, the three key parties that have been identified. And in that framework of arrangement, you will note that the council continues to have the landlord responsibilities, and SFT, the NHS Somerset Foundation Trust, have agreed to be the operational lead within the arrangement and will act as the anchor tenant for the majority of the space, barring that of which the council will continue to have responsibility. For example, the independent learning centre that the council will still provide that rental oversight for. We've done a number of work, and it's safe to say we've reached a consensual position on the rental and the service charge that is reflected within the report, and that has been signed and supported as acceptable to all partners. We have worked within it all as an assumption that no partner, and this is a real guiding principle of the collaboration agreement that will be part of it, is no one partner will be worse off or better off. So you will note within the report that we have identified that if the Academy drives a surplus, that will be used to offset any deficit that is identified in the first model, particularly in some of that rental. Within the model, you will notice as well that it does include a contribution to a sinking fund with the council that the council will hold alongside the freehold arrangement. I just want to mention a bit about social care. We're working really closely with adult social care, because you will note again that we've done some significant demand forecasts with social care sector, looking at how the Academy will act as that training and consistency. So really driving up access, consistency, quality of training and education around social care, be it through recruitment or retention challenges, which is one of the key drivers for the Academy. And it's safe to say as well, there are other it's a very much a live working revenue model that will continue to evolve as the Academy continues to mature and mobilise alongside it. The final few points within the points 20 to 22, we have noted in April an affordability gap was noted in the construction part of it. Just to note that the full construction and the recommended appraisal of the building contract will be identified in the full business case, but it's safe to say we're doing a number of very rapid mitigations. An affordable option has already been identified, but as you can anticipate, within a listed building, we're having to do some very rapid conversations with English heritage and conservation officers, and those are very live conversations, and again will be part of the full business case and contract. The final bit to say with point 23 onwards, the statement of intent and the roles and responsibilities are really identifying the ambition of being a contractual joint venture. The legal advice is not to be a subsidiary company, but to be a contractual joint venture, of which again SFT will be the lead operational host. And that will very much set out, as identified, the agreed roles and responsibilities that will be more detailed within the full collaboration agreement and the full business case that then becomes the legally binding document against the three parties that are involved. And safe to say that all of those have been involved and supported through the legal teams within the council and supported with Bevan Britton's our legal partner as identified. The final thing to say, the equivalent paper is going through each of the respective committees within SFT, the ICB, and here. It went to SFT's delegated from the Board Finance Committee last week on the 27th, where the paper was approved, and it is going to the ICB board on the 12th of May as well. So thank you. Hopefully that's just brought out some of the key areas in terms of supporting the recommendations from the report.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Tony, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to answer questions.
Of course. Thank you very much. Clive wants to chip in, and then I've got Liz, and then I've got me, because I didn't get my own hand up first.
Just a quick one to chip in. I've been involved in this project now for 6 or 7 months, and can I thank the hard work of everybody that's been involved in this piece of work. It's always had the potential, and we've knocked things around, we've met, we've sort of been there and back and looked and shaped things differently. Tony in particular has lived and breathed this for as long as I've been here and remember, and well done, Tony, for the patience. And Sarah, since you've been in, you've been a really good steering force as well. It's a great example of collaboration between the local authority, the ICB and Somerset Foundation Trust as well, and all working together to create something which should be, far greater than some of the individual parts created. So I'm really pleased that we've got to this stage, and thanks everyone for your hard work.
Thank you, Clive, and I think we'd all echo that. This has not been a straightforward project to bring forwards, and has taken a huge amount of knocking about. Did you hear you say? It is a listed building after all. Let's be careful. Liz?
I just wanted to clarify, if possible, the full business case, will that come after receipt of tenders and when we have some idea on deliverability? Is that correct?
So the intent, if I can answer, so the intention was actually to come back to the exec with a not to be exceeded price and to seek delegated approval to enter into the building contract within that not to be exceeded price. So we're double running the detailed design and tender process alongside signing the collaboration agreement. So we're seeking delegated authority to sign up to that building contract within a not to be exceeded price at FBC.
I've got Heather on my list as well, and then I'll come in.
Thank you, me first. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I just want to say, like all of us, I think this has been, it's a very, very exciting and very great kind of potential for it. And I think one of the things I was quite excited about at the beginning was not just about increasing our workforce capacity and training people. It's also to get that parity of esteem, I think, between health and social care. And I think that's a really, that's all within our grasp coming up. So it's very exciting, and I realise the focus of today, and perhaps the next time we see this, it will be all around the kind of the delivery of the fabric, if you like, and notwithstanding all the good work you've done collaboratively. I think that's marvellous. Actually, getting the three of us working together is really good. I suppose I'm just wondering at what point we actually see the bigger risk I have always worried about is about delivering a kind of the operational side of things. I have quite a lot of confidence that the building will be there and that we'll do something. It all sounds really good. I'm really assured. But when in the process would we be looking at risks and business cases and kind of anticipation around actually delivering the fabulous things that we want to have happen here?
Sarah, do you want to reply to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's a really relevant point. And actually, I probably should have said, even though the building is looking at completion in 2028, we're already commencing the aim to do delivery of training within this year, because the more that we can start and actually do the delivery, then we're getting into working through that model, working with social care. So we already have a plan for each of the quarters for this year that's looking at delivery models that shape from social care. So actually, that operational model, along with the target operating model, is already in effect being taken forward through the governance of the academy.
Thank you. So just a comment from me first of all. Really pleased that at last we're starting to see the sign that this building will be brought back into use. It is a very prominent building in the centre of Bridgwater, and it's been a huge disappointment that it's taken a significant amount of time to get to this stage. I understand all the background to it, but myself, many members of my family, many of my friends have had treatment in that. We know the building very well. It's much loved as a place of the beginning and end of life, and all stages in between. So we, having it brought back into positive use will be important for the regeneration of Bridgwater. Just one question from me. I it has always been a disappointment that the Bridgewater Town deal wasn't able to bring forward one of its 11 projects, the Business and Enterprise Hub. And I notice in paragraph 16, there is an expectation that income will be generated through letting of commercial innovation space. With the difficulty of bringing that project forward as part of the town deal board, are we confident that that project is deliverable in this project?
If I can comment on that, and then Sarah, perhaps you come in with some further detail. So the innovation space in the academy is quite specific in that it is relating directly to innovation around health and social care and how that workforce develops. The Town Deal project was really about business startup space, for which was quite different to what's proposed here. So it's not the same market or the same businesses that will be brought into the academy.
Okay, thanks for the clarity on that. Sarah, do you want to add?
Yeah, just to briefly extend, and one of the things that we've had significant feedback from industry partners innovation, it's the benefit of really being co-located within an organisation that will have access to training, employers, skills facility. It's a very different, unique offer of being part of a building that offers something that isn't offered anywhere else to drive that innovation commercial industry partnership.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was particularly interested to see also the provision of a SILC, Somerset Independent Living Centre, and early years provision there. I think that really, both of those make it a really valuable project for the community, as well as making it viable as well. Okay. So we'll move on to other members. I've got Councillor Marcus Cravers first.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously, it's all been said how good a project this is. But I'm always very conscious that originally the Levelling Up Fund was a constituency-based thing, and at the time the constituency was slightly bigger and included a certain part of Western Somerset. And obviously, I think it's been touched about there about the operational business case. And obviously, we're providing all these facilities, and we talked about being part of a special building and things being located in a special building. But of course, and you can probably know what's coming now for those who've heard me in scrutiny, is that for a significant part of the population in my neck of the woods, that's still no good if you can't get a bus from Bridgewater to Minehead and vice versa. We're going to start calling that B2B, bus to Bridgewater. So I just want to make sure that, we are looking at how, we talked about in the report, it talks about, agreeing a more sustainable Somerset. But of course, for me, that's quite an important factor, that you could be offering all these facilities along with all the other opportunities there are in Bridgewater. But people in this neck of the woods still can't get there unless they own a car. So I just want to make sure that that's borne in mind. I'm now going to go and ponder, Councillor, you said earlier that apparently we're living our best lives and it's not going to get better than that. That's going to give me a thought for the day. Thank you, Chair.
Indeed, it was a cheerful moment. In that the glass was half full. Do we wish to respond on the West Somerset points? I think the point's well made. Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, just to say that I think it's a very fair point and something that I've been very clear to keep saying. It's serving all of the region. Yes, there is a capital build within Bridgewater, but there'll be an offer and a network of how we work across all of Somerset, actually, because we know that is a requirement of all of the academy. So I think there's more to do, actually, for people to understand it's not only about a building on the M5 in Bridgewater, it is serving all of Somerset in a networked approach.
Indeed, and very aware of the difference in the original bid, which was based on parliamentary constituencies rather than individual localities. But having this opportunity for regeneration as part of that, I think, gives it a dual aspect, which is important. Francis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is the same subject. This is the Levelling Up Fund. It's addressing regeneration needs on not only of buildings but also of people, and Marcus's point is well made. Paragraph 6.1 of the appendix says funding to cover specified capital costs relating to the acquisition of land, construction, fit out, furniture and installation of essential technical training equipment and facilities for the academy, comprising the Bridgewater and Minehead sites. So I am worried by the word network and the idea that that might be an online offer, because that's what network usually means when there's not transport and there's long distances. Regeneration in the Minehead area and the West Somerset area in general, whereas Marcus says you can't get to Bridgewater, is hugely important. It is also an area where there is a great need for carers, given the elderly nature of the population. Unless the funding is for capital costs is also to include Minehead, I think it needs to be quite clear. A site in Minehead, it needs to be quite clear that this is a change and it should be fought.
Laura.
Yes, it's a good point, well made. The levelling up bid had two sites within it, one being Bridgewater and one also being in Minehead, the Seahorse Centre. We have refurbished property there, which has been running some training facilities. We are considering at the moment whether or not that continues, and it might be that that has to close down because there is no ongoing need or demand that we have identified for that facility at this point in time. So
I will allow it on this occasion, Francis, because I want to hear the question and answer, and
I am very worried about identification of no need, or there are lots of reasons why in an area where distances are huge and incomes are very low, when it is difficult to ensure that something is properly and well used to the benefit of all the people in the area, both the people getting the training and also the people who need the trained people. And I will be very worried if there is any idea of not addressing the issues, but just giving up on West Somerset.
I'll add a little bit more to that, if I may. We found out during the delivery of training packages at the Seahorse Centre in Minehead that participants in the training were actually having difficulty getting there. So in terms of a facility that could wash its face for continuing long term, it was not going to be financially viable to continue with that activity in that location, unfortunately. But yes, I do certainly appreciate that it hasn't addressed that need in that locality, but within the confines of this project, we're unable to make that happen, I'm afraid.
I'll bring in the Chief Executive.
Yeah, just to reassure Councillor Nicholson, I don't think the council in any way gives up on any part of Somerset, particularly West Somerset. I know members in the room would never let that happen. But what I think we are saying is if the model we've tried to roll out is not working for local people or the council and it's not financially viable, we have to be honest and say we did try that way. It hasn't delivered what we wanted it to do. So that needs to stop. And then we need to look at what we do next, but we're not giving up. And we continue to work with a whole range of different partners in the Minehead area and surrounding area. We're in meetings recently with SASP, etc., looking at their very successful partnership with the council and other partners that's rolled out. NHS colleagues were in the room as well. So there's a lot going on, but we've got to be honest, this approach, which I think it was thought prior to vesting day would have delivered, hasn't been delivering the outcomes we want. And if it's not viable, we've got to admit that for the good of the public in terms of best value and find a different way of addressing the need.
Councillor Wakefield, do you want to add?
Yeah, just to say that people should understand that this is a mixed type of training. So some of it can be done online, very well online actually, and some of it can be done in the facility that we're going to build, which is a innovative thing to do, to have a facility like this, because it's going to incorporate, as we've said, a silk and some child health early years facilities as well. And I'm sorry about the Minehead situation, but we are really constrained by the budget we've got for this. We've got to deliver it within budget, and you have to make these decisions early on before you've wasted money and you find yourself costs running away. So, as I say, the training can be delivered, quite a lot of it, online. But those who need to get there, then we'll have to make sure that there are ways and means for people to get there. But that's something that will come going forwards.
Yes, one
Very brief.
final and brief comment.
One final and brief comment. Yes, finding ways and means for them to get to the building. If it's difficult for them to get to Minehead from West Somerset, it's going to be a great deal more difficult to get to Bridgewater and a great deal more costly.
The point is well made, and yeah, we will take that away and see how we can address it. I think is all we can say at the moment. Okay. Diogo, go on then.
Thank you, Chair. I did put my hand up when you were looking at Francis, but I think your eyes are focused on Francis rather than me.
My eyes were just for Francis at that point.
That's fine. All right, that's fine. Just two things. I wasn't aware about the Minehead bit of information until today, and I think that would actually be a colossal mistake for this county. I've seen reports and strategies or whatever it is that outlines or that recognises the elderly population in West Somerset and how much that impacts West Somerset, and the need to attract more workers to work in health and social care in West Somerset because of that. Part, I think, of making West Somerset attractive for those health and social care workers is having training facilities available on their doorstep rather than having to kind of, travel miles and miles to get the training that they need. So I think that really should be considered, and I hope it is reconsidered. And if the model doesn't work, then what other model could work is what we should be asking ourselves. But the point that I was originally going to make is, on a positive note, what a fantastic legacy by Sedgemoor District Council. I have to say that, Chairman. And just, I'm unsure about the funding, the income for this year. Just a bit more detail on that, because it's due to generate 644,000, I think, this year. And I'm just wondering how that's going to be generated. Also concerned about the length in time, how long it has taken to get to this point. We've already seen slight changes in the way in which this has been delivered. For example, I think, was it the reduction or the removal of key worker accommodation from the site? I think it was, and that was the first original part vision. And now there's another line on here that's saying that the floor plan will be revisited again because of the gap in the project. So I am concerned that the time in which it's taking for this to be delivered means that costs, of course, are going up, and we're having to cut back on some of that original vision that we had for this building. However, it's still a very positive thing moving forward. And one last thing, just one plug to Councillor Wilkins, is in order for people to access the new building, they do need two-way traffic on Salmon Parade. Thank you.
We'll take that under advisement once we see the consultant's report. What a fantastic legacy that it's taken us 4 years to be able to unpick and find a viable way of moving forwards with this. I've heard the phrase hospital pass before. This might well be a literal example of that, but never mind, we can debate that at another point. It is fantastic news. It's the big picture, I think. I know I recognise the concerns about West Somerset, and your final comment of, if that doesn't work, we need to find a better way of doing it, is absolutely spot on. So I think we're in danger of being completely in agreement. Councillor Dingwall.
Thank you very much, Chair. As everybody else is really very supportive of this, really very excited to see this building put to great use. A couple of questions I had around the timing of this report. So it feels this statement of intent report being signed off with the revenue model. The paper describes it being as intended to be legally binding, but we're doing that without knowing the full cost. So it talks about construction affordability gap. The business case isn't signed off or brought to executive yet. So I don't want to lead the question too much, but what level of confidence is there in the revenue model before we have the final costs, so that the site can wash its face there? The second and linked question here is, I understand from Sarah that it was the legal advice not to create a subsidiary company for the joint venture. But with that, who has the final control in scoping decisions? So budget decisions on spend, council hold the budget, but the trust seem to hold the scope of the work. There appears to be a tension there. If the scope needs to increase, the budget has to be spent or not. How does not having a joint venture subsidiary help with that?
Okay, Tony, you wanted to chip in first. There were several questions within that one. I think one's probably for Tony, one's probably for Sarah.
Yeah, there was a couple of things there. I'll kick off, Chair. Thank you. The construction cost and the signing of the statement of intent and the heads of terms for the collaboration agreement are not linked. So the statement of intent is the intent of the partners to work forward to finalise the collaboration agreements, and that will come back with the full business case. So the actual formal joint venture arrangements, the entering into the building contract will be subject to that's a council decision, and that is a separate piece of governance, and that will also come forward as I said before, as a not to be exceeded cost for delegated authority for approval to enter into that contract. There is no commitment being entered into now from the council to enter into a building contract that we haven't yet got tenders for. So that decision will come back later, and there will be the statement of intent does not bind the council into entering into a building contract that could be unaffordable or would, until we've gone through that process. So they're not linked, but the statement of intent is very definitely a commitment for the three partners to work together to formalise the collaboration. And the collaboration agreement will come back later. And in fact, it was the council that was very keen to enter into a collaboration agreement and have some formal risk sharing set out now as we work forward, because it was recognising that in theory the council hold the risk at the moment, and the NHS partners, there's no formal agreement between the three parties. So it's designed to provide some risk share and comfort for the council. Moving forward as we enter into the collaboration agreement, which will be in the summer following FBC approval.
And Sarah, did you want to add as well?
Yeah, so from my perspective, just to extend on a couple of points, is as we said, the agreement is really much based on the equal risk sharing. So I think that's a really important point, that in order of taking it forward, and I think it's a real significant step in the first time beginning to identify the roles and responsibilities of each of the organisations in that equal risk sharing approach, the heads of terms that will then drive the collaboration model. There was also a question about the scope of accommodation and any impact it may have on the risk of the ambition of the academy. Just to say that I've really carefully looked at all of the accommodation schedule and feel confident that we can still reach there was quite a lot of shared empty space within the building, and the review of the accommodation schedule will still very much align to the ambition and the overall strategy. In fact, it will probably mitigate some of the revenue challenges that we've got, I would suggest, going forward. So I would just say, and the final point around the model of the revenue, we've done as much stress testing as I can against the assurance of those income streams. I think we have to be honest and say it is a dynamic model. In fact, I would say we're probably being quite conservative on some of it. We've really looked at social care. There's a whole ambition around other commercial training opportunities and innovation opportunities, but we have done some stress testing around the assurance of those income and what that would look like, and that will continue to evolve, as I said, as a live model.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dingwall is nodding away, so he is been satisfied by your answers. Thank you so much.
I just add, Chair, that the point is here that the parties have been working together for a considerable period of time, but there is no legal documentation that requires them to do that. We have bought the building, Somerset Council have bought the building on the basis of the commitments made by the other parties, and we have been driving forward the statement of intent, which is a legally binding document, so that the parties all know where they stand. And we have been working together really well, as has already been said, but it is necessary to have something to in writing to cover that before we move on to the next stage. And the other two bodies are putting it through their statutory organisations, whatever they happen to be, or their committees, to do the same thing. And it's happening almost simultaneously. It has been hard to get to this point, but it's really important that the allocation of risk and the sharing principle, which runs through this document, is put into a document. That's why we're bringing it forward today.
Okay, I can just sum up that the big picture here is this is a fabulous project that will bring regeneration to a much loved building in the centre of Bridgewater, but also it will provide a training facility for care workers across the sector to be able to give us the workforce we need to be able to take care of the most vulnerable people in our communities. It is such an important project, and that it has taken a considerable amount of time to get the partnership over the line to be able to deliver something that we think the business case is now there for something that's viable, and we can then hopefully build on it and roll out that across the county to be able to make sure that we meet that future need. We know the pressures that social care put on council finances and the desperate need that sector is in need of reform. So this is absolutely fantastic. In need of change. It is absolutely a super project, and I'm really pleased that we've got it to this stage, and we're working in parallel with the planning process to be able to get this over the line. Proposed, Councillor Wakefield, seconded Councillor Lyshawn, and the recommendations are that we agree the statement for intent, we agree the principles for the heads of terms, and we authorise the head of legal services and the executive directors to work with other parties to draft the collaboration agreement, and we note the business case. Can I see those in favour, please? Can I see those against? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much, everybody, for your contributions on that one. I'm really positive to have that get to this stage. So thank you everybody so much, everybody, for your engagement and contributions today. And we've improved our housing development strategy, delivering 580 new quality energy efficient homes in Somerset. We've echoed the fairer and better Britain, Somerset, fairer ambition. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to talk about that. The fairer and better Somerset ambition, whichever way we do it in that council vision document. We've got through the council vision, and as we've seen in our Inspiring Innovation programme, moving away from the financial emergency into financial recovery. Which is so important, and I'm really confident our missions around opportunity, connection and homes will provide that clarity and help us steer towards a fairer and better future for all. Sarah, Tony, Lara, thank you so much for your contributions today, and really excited to see this project getting forwards. Our next meeting on the 3rd of June. I believe, again here in the Luttrell room, and I believe we have a very full agenda on that day. So if you might want to bring your sleeping bag and a flask for that one. We are finishing the meeting 5 minutes late, so apologies for running late. Meeting closed. Thank you very much.